Okay, welcome back. The latest edition of Mystery Wire with George Knapp. I'm Ron Futrell. We also have Carlos Sampson and John Forrest here helping us out, put this show together. And we got now quite a few shows in the can, so to speak, that are out there so you can search and see on our app to be able to check them out and find out what's going on. We talk about a lot of different things here, pretty wide variety here. George, you want to talk some UFOs?
Yeah.
Shall we do that?
We could do that. Yeah.
Let's jump into the UFO topic and a very specific incident. Needles, California. You see where it's at there on the map here in the desert Southwest. And in May 2008, they had a sighting. There was a UFO. When we say that, unidentified flying object, it still has not been identified.
Nope.
As far as you know, nobody
has not
said for sure what it was. We can speculate. I may speculate if we got time. But here we go. Let's take a look at one of the stories you did on the Needles crash from May 2008, and we'll talk to you when it's done, but get some background.
Somewhere in this rough terrain, just west of the Colorado River and south of Needles, is a point of impact, maybe some burn marks, created by something that fell from the sky. Frank Costigan saw it because he got up at 3 in the morning to let his cat out, a fiery object that flashed across the sky. But it wasn't a meteor, he says.
Up in the sky, it was just bright. It was bright enough that it illuminated the ground.
For 7 years, Costigan worked as the chief of airport security at LAX. He says the mystery object flew out of the northeast heading southwest, traveling very fast. But at one point it slowed down, then sped up again.
And it went behind a hill, and I waited to see if I could hear it crash, because as big as it was bound to make noise.
But he didn't hear a crash.
I was coming into work.
Hours later, David Hayes, the owner of K-Talks Radio in Needles, was coming to work when he spotted an odd formation of dark vehicles driving off the highway. He drew a picture of the lead vehicle, a large truck with a dome on top and a black structure that reminded him of a stealth fighter.
It seemed like it was some kind of surveillance vehicle, but four-wheel drive, and it had government plates, the U.S. government plates on it. And behind it was a couple of vans that were, they looked like support vehicles.
The men inside had military bearings, Hayes said, but weren't in uniform. He made eye contact with one of the drivers, and the guy followed him. Later in the day, one of the vehicles was parked outside his station, seemingly conducting a surveillance of the place.
You see these guys, and they're staring you down. It's sort of a Men in Black sort of a feel to it?
Absolutely. Very serious, serious as a heart attack.
I went up to the airport.
Coincidentally, Costigan, the ex-cop, works on investigations for Hayes. When he came into the radio station, he told Hayes about the thing he'd seen in the sky, and Hayes told him about the Men in Black. Then they got another piece of the puzzle, a call from a man who lives in a houseboat on the river, who said he saw the fiery object, that it had crashed about 100 yards west of the river, that it landed with a thump. Hayes says he's known the witness for years by the name Bob on the River. Bob thought a plane had crashed and tried to call 911, but his cell wouldn't work, so he moved his boat out into the river and then heard the helicopters. In an interview with journalist Linda Howe, Bob says he saw at least 5 helicopters flying in formation, including a large sky crane. The crane picked up the oval-shaped object, still glowing, and flew away, heading in the direction of Las Vegas. One odd detail, the choppers arrived only 17 minutes after the object crashed. Bob described it to Hayes.
About the size of he said it was like the size of a semi-trailer, about like a oblong-shaped thing, and like a tank, something like that.
There's got to be something, some evidence on the ground.
Out of the blue, the people at the station got a call from a friend in Laughlin who said the Laughlin airport had been inundated on the night of the crash with so-called Janet planes. That's the airline that flies workers to top-secret Area 51. Costigan says the airport could not confirm this because no one's on duty after 6 p.m. at night, not even in the tower. The black vehicles have left Needles. Bob, the houseboat guy, can't be found either.
The fact that there were people here the next day, almost like a team, it seemed like, that they were doing either some sort of cleanup or whatever. The point is that something definitely happened.
Okay, we've got more coming up on this, but overall, your thoughts on what this could have been and what it was and what the people thought at the time.
Well, it was so much fun, because we had been hearing bits and pieces about something that crashed near the riverbed, but couldn't really get a handle on it until the folks at the radio station started helping us. Frank Costigan, by the way, has passed on. So has Dave, the owner. They're no longer around. But I was intrigued by who's doing surveillance of these guys who were just talking about a mysterious crash on their radio station, a small station in Needles. So Matt Adams and I kept going back down there and finding more witnesses who had confirmed, this long cylindrical turquoise-looking object flew over our house, and it looked like it crashed somewhere right next to the river. We did multiple reports on it, and we kept going down to Needles to see if we can find these mysterious men in black and their strange vehicles. And finally, we did. We saw them go by us, a phalanx of these vehicles traveling together. We flipped a Huey and chased them and caught up to them, and that's what happened then. It makes it even more fun, the story.
That's in our third segment here. We're going to talk about that. Did they find you or you find them?
We found them.
You found them, and they didn't like being found.
They didn't like it at all and didn't want us anywhere near them or interfere with what they were up to. And, that was a really fun, that created a whole different story that we'll be getting into. I always thought maybe this is something that got off the reservation that was being tested out at Area 51. Something went wrong, it crashed, because those helicopters, those military helicopters and that crane were there within minutes, hauled that thing away, took it away, and I think somebody came in to clean up the site, the crash site too. We didn't know where that crash site was. We had a general idea. Eventually, Bob on the river, or Houseboat Bob, went on camera with us, and we took a trip out to it and found it.
Where he felt the site was?
Yeah, his best guess. We looked for any impact from something heavy hitting into the dirt, but it is sand on that river, on the edge of the river, like a beach. And it made a thump and just stopped there. Something came out of the sky and scooped it up and took it back in the direction of Nevada's Area 51. Where else would you take it?
Where else?
But XR-37B is my best guess, something like that.
It was?
Yeah.
Remotely piloted?
Probably.
Yeah. A drone of some sort.
Yeah, and there's one up there right now. There's one in the sky. They go up on these long-term missions. They won't. No one in the Defense Department or intelligence community will say what the mission is, but we've got them, and it kind of looks in that same general shape.
Okay, when we come back, we're going to have part 2 of your story there on the Needles crash, and meet the interesting. I'll say the interesting folks that live out there in Needles. We've got them around here in the desert Southwest. Yeah. Great people. And then also learn about the OST, the Office of Secure Transportation, which I'd never heard of until I started looking into this, nor had you before this story happened. So that much more coming up on Mystery Wire with George Knapp. Welcome back. We're talking about May 2008. A crash happened. Something crashed out in Needles, California, still unidentified. Was there a whole lot of publicity about this at the time, or were you, like so many other topics, you're the one going out there, the tip of the spear on this?
Yeah.
Did others follow you at that time and cover this?
They did afterward, yeah. Okay. After we sort of broke the ice on it. I think it had been discussed in UFO circles for a while. There's the Roswell crash, the Kingman crash. Crashes do happen. This was evidence sort of how quickly the government can respond when a crash occurs, of whatever it is, something of ours or something of theirs. It's like the recent crash of a drone, an unnamed drone outside of Area 51. They were on it. They had cover stories ready, and that's what happened here. They responded really quickly. It got off the reservation. They took it back and didn't say anything and did their best to muddy the waters, as they always do.
And pretend it didn't happen.
Yeah.
What? No, those people are crazy out there that saw this. They all saw it. Here's part 2 of your Needles crash story.
According to eyewitnesses, the mystery object blazed out of the sky in the early morning hours of May 14th. In Bullhead City, former LAX police chief Frank Costigan noticed the turquoise light overhead.
It kind of got bright, so naturally I looked up, and I picked it up right about here, heading in that direction, and it went like this speed, down behind that hill right there. I expected to hear the boom coming from somewhere.
Elsewhere in Bullhead City, Brad Allen's son saw it in his telescope.
And it was weird to him because it was going fast and it seemed to slow down and then picked up speed again. and it was really bright.
Looked like it was darn near coming right at me.
This fisherman was on a slow drift down the Colorado River south of the town of Needles when the large glowing cylinder plunged out of the sky.
It didn't look like a meteor. I've seen meteors before. It looked like a plane crashing.
The witness, who prefers to be known as Bob on the River, says the object slammed into the riverbank 50 or more yards west of his houseboat.
It hit and it thumped. It didn't crash, it didn't explode. It went poof, a thump.
In this desolate stretch of the river, much of the surrounding land is sandy, like a beach, so a thump on impact rings true. Because the river is lower than the bank, Houseboat Bob could not see the crash itself, but he had no trouble eyeballing the military-type helicopters that swooped in just moments later.
I believe there were 4 of them. One kept its light on me, one kept its light on the front of my boat, two of the other ones were circling.
The smaller choppers were joined by a huge sky crane similar to this one, which somehow attached itself to the crashed object, then hauled it away in formation toward the north. Minutes later, in Bullhead City, Brad Allen saw the aerial procession.
I looked through the binoculars, and below one of them was a green object. It wasn't glowing, it was just faint green.
There's so many possibilities of what it was, but
the story of the UFO crash and the mystery helicopters first emerged on K-Talk's radio in Needles after Bob on the River called in, a decision he came to regret. When the story went national, Bob was nowhere to be found. In the months since, the I-Team filed records requests with more than a dozen federal, state, and local agencies. Not one knows anything about the incident, although 2 federal intelligence agencies stated they have no records they can release. UFO groups have assumed the object must be a crashed flying saucer, similar to the famed Roswell incident, and that it was retrieved under something like Project Moondust, a real program from the Cold War designed to locate things that fall from the sky.
We've had things that fall down for a long, long time, and you have people who go out and pick up things that fall down. That doesn't make them extraterrestrial.
Retired intelligence Colonel John Alexander thinks it's possible that what crashed near the river was something being developed in secrecy by our military. His best guess, some sort of UAV, a pilotless warplane, the kind said to be in development at Area 51.
Well, it's only unidentified to you. They know what it is, and there's also the possibility that you lost control and it flew off the range. So it's not that far from Edwards or any of the test ranges.
Lockheed Martin, for example, has conceptualized a number of super-secret, high-tech, unmanned flying machines capable of morphing into other shapes during flight. And what about military choppers? The I-Team found several stationed during the summer in Henderson, attached to a special ops group known as the Night Stalkers.
I'd sure like to know. I thought it was a plane crash.
Was Houseboat Bob intimidated into laying low, as ex-cop Frank Costigan told us? When we found him a few weeks ago, the fisherman was cagey.
It's a very difficult question to answer, Mr. Knapp, especially at this time.
Privacy. You could say that. I mean,
Obscurity.
That's what he wants, obscurity.
He was tough to get him to go on camera. The first interview was we weren't showing him at all, and finally we got him talked into. He got more comfortable with us, but he was a private person. He passed away recently. I just learned a week ago, but he really helped us a lot on that story. And man, it went everywhere. It's ignited all sorts of other expeditions by UFO hunters, some of whom claim that they found the wreckage that was left at the site. I don't know. I don't know about that.
The Office of Secure Transportation, the OST, is what we're going to cover, in which you then found, as so often happens when you investigate one story, it leads to another, and this did in this case that you'll be fascinated in hearing that story when we come back to Mystery Wire.
It's a good one, too. It's a good one.
Well, who knew there was an Office of Secure Transportation? The government's filled with acronyms, the OST, and it makes sense. Had you ever heard of the Office of Secure Transportation before you ran into them investigating the Needles UFO?
No, had never heard of them, didn't know they exist, figured somebody must do what they do, and we'll get into that in a second. But, we were interested in these men in black sightings. We found 5 or 6 witnesses who had seen these people in looked like military guys lurking in really strange configuration vehicles and often traveling in a convoy on the highway. And I was really intrigued by that. Who are these MIB types? Why are they spying on these folks in Needles and that area? And we tried. Matt Adams and I drove by down there multiple times looking for whatever it was on the highways, and we finally found them.
Or they found you, or you found them, or a little bit of both?
We found them. So
okay, you did find them. Okay.
We see one of the vehicles that was described in the earlier package leading this convoy, and then a couple of big trucks, and then more vehicles behind them. And hey, Matt, that looks like that's what we flipped a Huey, caught up to him. I'm shooting some video out the window of the car. You can see these guys in the one big truck, short-cut hair, wearing sunglasses, get on a radio, saying something. I say, oh, this can't be good. They pull over in a rest stop, the lead vehicle. We pull in behind them, and then somebody pulls in behind us. I get out of the car, and this burly security guy climbs down out of the big rig. He's got like a Hawaiian shirt on, but underneath of it, as he's climbing out, I see a gun on He's packing. So he gives me an order. Hey, get away, get the hell out of here, leave us alone, or you're going to be in big trouble. And I said, so who are you? Oh, and he says, yeah, who are you anyway? He says, I'm a Channel 8 news reporter, George Knapp. He goes, and I go, who are you? Why don't you tell me? And we're federal agents. He flashes a badge, too quick for me to see what it was. We work with the Department of Energy. I said, well, great. We work with them all the time. We've got friends out there. We do stories at the test site. So maybe we can talk a little bit. He said, no, stay away and leave us alone. So I did. And I'm driving back to Las Vegas. I get a call from Darwin Morgan. You know him.
I know, former reporter here.
Yeah, former reporter in Channel 8. Went to the Department of Energy.
Yeah.
And he says, what are you guys doing out there? I said, just our job. We had these reports about men in black. And he says, you are so lucky. You could have been killed. You don't know who those guys are?
Oh.
And then he tells me, the Office of Secure Transportation, and it's their job to transport nuclear weapons and nuclear materials for the Department of Defense. So, you know, if they'd been carrying a bomb and were harassing the convoy, it could have got ugly because they are authorized to use lethal force. They're a little bit of a legend to long-haul truckers across the country who see them on the highways in the deep, dark night out in the middle of nowhere, and all kinds of rumors have popped up. They've been accused of or suspected of being the convoy for UFOs and UFO parts as well.
It wouldn't surprise anybody. Okay, from that, your story that you did, let's go in the Wayback Machine to May 2008 and see the story where that encounter, by the way, on the roadside was on tape. You can see it here.
On a ribbon of asphalt in the Nevada desert, a strange convoy of odd vehicles with darkened windows slides along in relative obscurity. There are no signs or placards to suggest who these guys are, but the telltale license plate says federal government. At a way station near Laughlin, the convoy pulled over to evaluate who we were, so we waited too. As we did, more of the mystery trucks zipped past. Since May, when an unknown object crashed near the Colorado River south of Needles, residents have reported seeing so-called men in black in unmarked vehicles.
One of the four-wheel drive trucks with the shell on the back that had like the bumps, radar domes, things like that.
They have been seen in the area over the past several months, and sometimes in, many of them, not just one or two.
Eyewitnesses say the men in the trucks had a military bearing, close-cropped hair, but wore civilian clothes. Ex-cop Frank Costigan says he chatted with one outside a grocery store.
And he's wearing a uniform shirt that says Nevada Test Site. I said, where exactly is it? Never did it dawn on me that was Area 51. He says, Area 51.
Back at our roadside encounter, the situation grew more tense when one of the trucks pulled up beside us. A man got out and told us to produce some ID, so we asked him to first show us his.
I'm a federal agent of the United States.
The badge was from the NNSA, the National Nuclear Security Administration, the branch of the Department of Energy responsible for nuclear weapons. NNSA is a constant presence in Nevada, particularly at the test site, but it has a little-known elite component which doesn't interact with media.
And as a patriotic American, we ask that you not interfere.
What we stumbled upon was OST, Office of Secure Transportation, the special unit created to transport nuclear weapons and weapons-grade material. Since its creation in 1975, its convoys have logged more than 110 million miles without any serious incidents, carrying the world's deadliest cargo right through cities like Las Vegas, and only a handful of people are in the know.
We're not trying to hide anything for anyone, but we're not also trying to, be too overt.
Operations Manager Mike Flynn says OST walks a fine line between openness and secrecy. Its existence is not a secret, but its work is classified by necessity. Earlier this year, OST moved into Area 12 of the Nevada test site for specialized training. The I-Team is the first TV news crew to get a glimpse into that world. Over the years, OST's fleet of specially modified rigs has created an aura of mystery, especially among long-haul truckers.
They think that we're doing all types of different business, and anything from hauling aliens to hauling vast shipments of whatever it is that needs to be placed by the government somewhere.
For the records, no aliens though, right?
No aliens. Haven't transported an alien.
The 1,200 employees of OST do a few things very well. They drive, they shoot, and they train. Agents are mostly ex-military, special forces, combat hardened. They must pass rigorous background checks, psychological tests, and a grueling 21-week academy. And then they train 800 hours every year, in particular on weapons and tactics, preparing for anything they might encounter on the road, everything from drunk drivers to hijackers to terrorists.
They're well capable, and there's significant numbers of them on each shipment. We trained to that level so that we could use deadly force as necessary to protect those weapons.
OST won't say what kind of firepower each convoy carries, but it is considerable. There are high-tech surprises inside the vehicles as well, and the best communication systems in the world. The head of this low-key agency hopes the bad guys get one message.
Our best security posture is providing a target that potential adversaries are going to look at and go, that's too hard. These guys and gals are too good, and it's not worth our effort.
And do you train for crazy media guys with cameras?
We hope that doesn't happen again.
Okay, crazy media guy. Watch out for those crazy media guys with cameras. Glad they exist. I didn't know they did, but they're still, I would imagine, carrying precious cargo of some sort.
Yeah, you can realize if they had been carrying a nuclear bomb or nuclear material, they would have been right to do more than just shoo us away. I was very impressed with OST. Their national head, we talked to them, DOE, Darwin, and said, hey, nobody's ever heard of this. Let's do a story. They had never done one. And so we talked to their head guy in D.C. He came out. We got that story, and I was very impressed. I mean, these are elite folks. What they're guarding is very serious. What I couldn't understand, and by the way, the trucks, those big semis, they can defend themselves. If everybody in that convoy was dead, those trucks could defend themselves, and they would win. They didn't tell us how that is. But, we did the story, had a great reaction, and because we had tracked those guys down and pulled them over, all the OST folks had to have media training, how to deal with somebody like me.
I assume they didn't tell you what they picked up off the river that crashed into that
No,
into the river.
They said they didn't know anything about that. And also, I don't think those are the guys that were doing the surveillance in Needles. It didn't make sense. I mean, they travel in a group. Maybe they pulled over and got a bite to eat or something on their way to Los Alamos. That's the route from the test site to Los Alamos. But I can't imagine their group doing that surveillance. But we talked to enough witnesses that I really do believe that did occur, just don't know who was behind it.
All right, George, thanks so much. Another edition of Mystery Wire with George Knapp now complete. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. We'll be back next week with another great edition for you. Stay tuned.